All right, it's Monday, July 17th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and you can see today on the daily chart we end up with a slight two up day, meaning we kind of opened up near the low end of Friday's range, kind of near the midpoint, and then it went up for most of the day and took out the high of the previous day and closed green. So first of all, coming into the week, we knew we had this green bar from last week that likely would test those highs at some point. The question was, with this red bar coming into the week, would we start immediately down, maybe fill in some gaps, or start up? And I discussed how I like to look at opening price action in the pre-market range to kind of determine which way the market may want to go first. And if we look at today, the pre-market range between the blue lines, we were starting lower, but then towards the open, we were coming back up to the top of the range. First bar kind of went up, second and pause. So this could have been an interesting failure bar right here. If we would have followed through lower, then we would have thought maybe we just take out these stops. We should continue to the low of the day, pre-market lows, which would be the low of yesterday. And then once we get that, we might be going back into this gap. And when we still could be doing that, I'll discuss that type of failure, to move up in a second. But instead, we paused on bar 2 and held, and then bar 3 was your buy signal right there. This is the classic inside, whether it's one bar or a few bars in a row, you buy that inside bar, looking for that first bar to be taken out, which happened. Then we're pausing. So you ended up with a very nice directional day of classic one push up, pause, second push up. And, that got us to what that did was now it took out the high of the previous week. So now we have some good reference points going forward. Are we going to just have another green week all the way up to our monthly targets? We've discussed our monthly targets are still up here, so I'm not abandoning that thought. Or can we begin to get a failure first in some form? So now we're going to have to since we reach the high of that green bar, we can have a failure. So we'll see if we kind of get below the open at any point. That's one reference point to turn the weekly chart red. In other words, right here is our opening of the week, right down here. So as long as we stay above that, we're green on the week. So we'll see now, if we come up a little bit for maybe tomorrow and then get to the halfway point of that bar. That might be the first sign we're failing on the daily bar. Then if we can get down there and get the open red, all of a sudden we might be getting failure. So we have good reference points now, the open of the week right here and the midpoint of this bar. As long as we kind of stay above that tomorrow, then we expect higher and continuation. But at any point, we could fail because we have these gaps down here that might be filled. So, it's possible we did our job, took out the high of that week. Maybe we probe higher. But at any moment now, a weekly failure could go. And if it's going to turn into a big failure, we're going to have to get to the midpoint of this week. If we do reverse somewhere on the daily chart, come down. As long as we hold the midpoint of this week, we'll look for good buy signals eventually. But if we can really have some sharp sell-off, it has to go below this midpoint of that week. So that's another thing. Should that even begin to develop, turn red, we're still not going to get, it could be good short-term trading to the downside for a little while, but until we get below the midpoint of the prior week, it's just a temporary thing. And then we'll see how these days unfold relative to, the timing of it all. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Maybe we get up and fail a little bit and come down, towards the end of the week, and that kind of gives us, if it bar turns red, then the likelihood we might follow through lower into next week. But maybe we come down tomorrow and Wednesday and then come up Thursday, Friday, and then we look for a continuation, higher into the week ahead. So a lot of that's how this week ended green, and that's why you're anticipating up a little bit, and we'll have to see how this week ends as well. So anyway, that's it for today. A two-up day reached its weekly target. Now we just want to see, we watch the midpoint of this bar and the open of the week, and we just see whether we get continuation for the rest of the week, or we look for signs of a failure without necessarily expecting it, but knowing what the key levels are if that should happen.